Next part of the homework. Allow the editing of student names after they're already in the list. Gee, it would be nice if I could make that spans content editable. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink, say no more. So there are many ways you could have done this. I'm going to show you two of them. I'll start with the one that I think is easiest. Both are going to use something called content editable. In our HTML, for the thing that we want to edit, which is the student name div, I'll just add an attribute, content editable equals true. Refresh the page, and behold, I can now edit these things. Now if I refresh the page, that goes away. But hey, I now made it editable, so that's a step in the right direction. So what can we do with this? So when do we want it to save, do you think? There's not a form to submit. How many of you did this? How many of you made this thing work? Really? Everybody who did it? Not doing the homework, Seth. I swear, man, the morning's making you look bad. They also talk trash about you. No, they didn't do that. So somebody who did it. Did you use content editable? Who used content editable? And when did you make it save? More people use content editable than did the homework. There's not. Yes, Matt.
I made it editable, but it didn't save.
Okay. Yeah, Alex. Made a save button. Okay, that's the second way we're going to do it. So yeah, I'll show you that way too. Yeah. You used blur. Aha. So when you have your cursor in an input, it is focused. When you don't, it is blurred. So there is a blur event that gets fired whenever something that has focus taken away. So that's a pretty decent way to do it. I like that. Let's try it. So query selector I will use. We could do it a few ways. We could say, what was that, student name? We could also just look for something with the attribute content editable, like this. You may remember square brackets. Oops, this is smaller than I intended. Square brackets indicate an attribute. So if this were like span, square bracket content editable, that would be any span with the content editable attribute. If I put a value in here, then it will look for a specific attribute value. But this just looks for the presence of that attribute. And we'll do it this way just to demonstrate that. Now I'll add an event listener. This time, the event I'm listening for is a blur. And I will call this.edit, which I will again bind to this. And I'll pass in the student, which we remember the event will actually get passed in as the last thing. So that would be edit student, then event. Actually, I don't like edit for that, because we don't really have to do anything other than update the name. So let's just make it update name. That's all it needs to do. We don't need to mess with the event. We don't need to find the button. We don't need to find the LI, because the LI is going to be edited just by typing in it, right? We saw that. So all we need to do is set student.name equal to the thing that we typed in there. And the thing that we typed in there should be the target of the event. dot value. It's not an input, so we can't actually use value, but we can use text content. Then we just have to remember to save so that it goes into local storage and is there when we refresh the page. So let's refresh. Let's add Nicole's last name here. Let's blur it by clicking somewhere else. Refresh the page. It's saved. It'd be nice if I could just hit enter. What happens if I hit enter? Oh, it puts in a new line. Yuck. That looks terrible. Let's stop that from happening. How would I capture the fact that I hit the enter key? Well, there is another event called key press. So once again, the event will occur on the content editable. The event this time is key press. And I don't think I need this parameter. All key press is going to do is call update name. So let's put it down here. Let's call it save on enter. It will receive an event. Save on enter. Now I need to stop it from putting that new line in there. Well, it's first things first. Let's put a debugger in here real quick. Refresh. Let's do it. Hit the key. Look in the console. Here's my event. It is a keyboard event. I see a bunch of stuff here. Key enter, code enter. Char code 13. Key code 13. I see key code used a lot. I have seen that key is actually now recommended. Key code is how I'm used to doing it, but key is apparently reliable. Does anybody not have it say enter? Everybody find on Windows it says enter? I'm going to use the key code anyway for right now, but I do think it might be deprecated. So 13 looks like is the enter key. So let's say if event.keycode triple equal 13 let's blur it. Event.target.blur, which will fire off this event and save it. Refresh the page. Put my cursor in here. Let's say Clayton enter. I still put the new line in there, but it looks like it did work. It did save it. So what can I do about that? I don't want it to put the new line in. That's bad. What can I do? What do you think? Yes, sir.
You could try just removing one character from the end of the box in your save memory.
Sounds like a lot of work. Yeah.
You would prevent default work?
The default behavior when I press enter while I'm focused in some sort of input thing is to put in a new line. Let's try it. Event.prevent default. Notice I am putting this inside my if. If I put prevent default and I type a letter, it's going to stop me from actually inserting the letter. So we don't want to prevent that. Let's try it out. Take Marilat's first name out of there. Hit enter. Ooh, it just blurs it. Refresh. It worked. It actually saved. I like it. This seems pretty easy. I'm going to make a slight tweak to the CSS because right now you can't even tell that these are editable or that you could click inside them, can you? You would never know unless you just happen to pay very special attention to your cursor there. It changes to kind of an editable cursor. So I'd like to put a little of that blue highlight around it when you hover over it. So let's look at what this is like. I want to see what style it is when it's focused, because that blue thing's only there when it's focused. But you'll notice that that doesn't show up down here. So look at this thing. Toggle element state, the little hover pseudo class there. Click on that, and you can force it to be in a particular state like focus. There it goes. And now we can see all the styles that are applied then. Now that's not a style sheet that we've added. That's just the default behavior in Chrome. If we scroll down and get to the gray area here, then we can see all the things that are applied because it's Chrome. Here in the user agent style sheet, we see outline, WebKit focus ring color, auto, 5 pixel. If you look at that, you'll see that's shorthand for outline color, outline style, outline width. Let's just copy this, put it in our styles, and what I'm wanting to do is for anything with the content editable attribute that we're hovering over, the hover pseudo class. I want to do the same thing except maybe not quite so thick. WebKit focus ring color, the fact that this is preceded by a hyphen is your clue that this is specific to WebKit browsers. This is not necessarily a standard color. You could specify another outline color for other browsers if you wanted by just putting another outline color above it. Or, yeah. Let's have a look at that. Refresh. Hey, now I get a little outline. If I click in there, it doesn't get thick until I move my cursor off of it, because this hover rule is taking precedence over that built-in focus rule. So I'm going to add another one for focus, which is another pseudo class, just specifying that the outline width should be back to 5 pixels. Refresh, hover, focus, yeah. Now it's a little more obvious that these are editable. Ship it. Edit existing student names.